Think of the content, Elliotte Friedman goes out there and says. Oh boy, yes, the content. That is the reason we're going out there and making this video. No, I'm not gonna lie. I initially had another plan to do for today's, well, seemingly 1 p.m. segment here in the Vancouver West Coast. I was going to talk about Tage Thompson of the Buffalo Sabres and make an entire video about how the Maple Leafs tried to trade for Thompson only for that deal to have gotten blocked by Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment. And then I realized that the tweet that tweeted that out, the Frank Saravelli tweet, was a fake Twitter account, and I got duped. This is the first time ever where I kind of got the short end of the stick and I got made a fool. So maybe that just means that I'm getting older. Maybe it just means that the world today, social media, Twitter, you got rid of the check marks. Why, Elon? Why? There are reasons that this is a bad idea, but either way, we're not talking about Tage Thompson and any sort of potential trade to Toronto that was nixed or whatever. Instead, we are talking about the Toronto Maple Leafs still, but we're going over another name that Elliotte Friedman goes out there and talks about in his latest edition of the 32 Thoughts article. Not the podcast, the regular article. Now, the link is going to be in the description to the edition, What's Next for the Leafs, Flames After Front Office Changes. This was published yesterday on May 23rd. But if you go over to the thought that shortly follows a lot of the conversations about both of these teams, you know, there's a lot of conversation about Toronto, Matthews leaving, Kyle Dubas, etc., head over to about the middle way part of the article here. This is what he says in thought number 11. It looks like Corey Perry will be hitting the market. After all these years, do the Toronto Maple Leafs finally make it work? Think of the content. And that is why we're making this video over here, because we're going over to Corey Perry, Tampa Bay Lightning forward, 38 years old, and discussing the idea of him heading over to the Leafs. Now, Perry has been some sort of a nomad the past few years. From Anaheim to Dallas to Montreal to Tampa, he had that crazy streak that everybody talks about, how he made the Stanley Cup Finals 3 times in a row, only to lose 3 times in a row with 3 different teams. In 2019-20, he was on Dallas. They lost to the Tampa Bay Lightning. 2020-2021, he was on Montreal. They lost to the Tampa Bay Lightning. And then in 2021-2022, he was on the Tampa Bay Lightning, and they lost in the finals to Colorado. The Cup is allergic to Corey Perry, and as a result, this season where you had another year where he actually was pretty alright, 25 points, 81 games played, 95 penalty minutes too. We know Corey Perry was never really the cleanest guy to go out there and play the game. He ends up getting eliminated in the first round, this time by Toronto, so if the pattern continues, if you follow along for Corey Perry to get eliminated by teams only to join them sometime down the line, is Toronto next up on the chopping block? The Maple Leafs have reason to go out there and try to sign a guy like Perry because he had 5 points in 6 games in that series against them. If there's any team that should know about the effectiveness of Corey Perry and what he offers to a hockey team, the Toronto Maple Leafs should be pretty high up there on that list. Plus, you had the Canadian division, where Montreal was playing off against Toronto every other day, and Corey Perry had all those reps in to agitate and get under the Maple Leafs' skin. And really, he's not even that bad of a hockey player. I mean, 40 points in 82 games last year as a member of the Tampa Bay Lightning, he really does have it still, even though he may not be getting 50 goals like he did back a decade ago. Right now, even at 38 years old, Corey Perry on any sort of a short-term, let's say maybe less than $1 million AAV deal, is a pretty good acquisition. And since the guy is from Ontario, everybody's going to talk about the Toronto Maple Leafs. Oh, bring him home, bring him home. He played off against Toronto as a member of the Habs, and he was actually really good in that postseason run. He's been good in all the postseason runs, realistically speaking, even though the numbers may not be too amazing, like he's at half a point a game in all the other playoff runs wherein his team went to the finals, but it's the magnitude of the points that he scores. We had covered the Canadian series, not the series, the entire run, excuse me, on the YouTube channel. We made streams, we did live stuff every time the Canadiens were playing, and Corey Perry was a beast. He came alive at the clutchest moments possible, scoring crazy goals, scoring important goals in big money moments, making big time plays. And Perry just has that X factor. He has that clutch factor that always puts him in the right spot at the right time to score the game winner, to score the series winner, whatever it may be. He is a Stanley Cup champion after all, even though that cup came almost, like 15 years ago, he still has that to his name. He was a very good player back then, and he's a player that still has what it takes to show off value at the NHL level. You talk about the Toronto Maple Leafs, and you go over to what they've needed in the postseason, etc. We've always talked about that clutch X factor. We talk about how guys like Matthews, Tavares, and Marner disappear when the going gets tough. Sure, they were good against Tampa Bay this year, but second round, Florida completely disappeared. If it was Corey Perry going out there, he probably wouldn't have done that. Just saying. In fact, last year, Corey Perry, playing for the Tampa Bay Lightning, had the 11 points in 23 games. And you go over to the game log, how many points did Corey Perry have throughout the different series? Okay, so here's what it was from 2022, so last year. First round against the Toronto Maple Leafs, Corey Perry has 2 goals in the 7-game series. Okay, not the best, but he still went out there and produced somewhat. Against the Florida Panthers, the sweep, 3 goals, 1 assist in 4 games. There you go. Clutch. Corey Perry right there, coming alive in the second round. Round 3 against New York, he had 2 assists in the 6-game series. And then in the Stanley Cup Finals, 1 goal, 2 assists. 6 games right there, Tampa Bay loses in the finals, and Perry has the points that he gets. Now, sure, he's not a top dog, but he is a good enough dog where it's like, yeah, the guy's 38, he's going to be making such little money that you could definitely think about adding this type of a guy if he goes out there and produces at the biggest moments at the biggest times. So for Toronto, it's an idea that makes sense in more than one way, and Elliotte Friedman just kind of lit a fire by saying, hey, let's talk about this now. Imagine the content. Yeah, imagine the content. Imagine the content of having Corey Perry and John Tavares playing on the same team after the shenanigans that happened 2 years ago, wherein the super brutal and terrible accident occurred with Corey Perry's knee. Like, imagine the storylines, imagine everybody coming together and saying, okay, yeah, now you're on our team. Now you can go out there and knee somebody else. And no, I'm not going to finish that joke. That was a joke, by the way, please. I was joking. But either way, Corey Perry would still be a pretty valuable addition to a Toronto Maple Leafs squad. It just really depends on what the new GM is thinking. Do they want to add more sandpaper? Do they want to add more grit? Is Corey Perry the guy to do that? Because he's got the agitation, but he also has the clutch factor that many other Toronto Maple Leafs lack. Maybe aside from Nylander and Riley, a lot of these other guys have sort of slowed down. You could talk about the other guys in the lineup too. Okay, there are always the Laffertys and the other players that you wouldn't really expect who actually showed up, but at the end of the day, the top guys. You need your Matthewses and your Marners and your Tavareses to do this, and for some reason, Corey Perry just happens to be really good at that. So, thoughts in the comment section below. Link is in the description as well to the 32 Thoughts article on sportsnet.ca. Elliotte Friedman has a scoop. What are your thoughts about that? Do you think Friedman has a point? Do you think it was worth making this video and talking about Corey Perry heading over to the Maple Leafs? Would you sign this guy? He's 38 years old. He is not young, but he's probably going to be pretty cheap, and he's not going to sign on for a long-term deal. Thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this Juraj 99, and bye.